right, hello there, thrill seekers. That was the guitar riff from a Ted Nugent song, a song by his early band Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes, and the song is called Flight of the Bird, if you want to go find it on YouTube. It's a groovy riff. As usual, the riff has nothing to do with the topic at hand, which is David Lynch and his involvement in transcendental meditation. So before I say what I have to say, I want to preface it by saying the reason I am doing this video at all is because at least 5 different people either emailed me or left comments saying, would you talk about David Lynch and his involvement in transcendental meditation? And when enough people ask me to do a specific topic, I think, okay, well, there's probably a demand for it. Like the idea is if one person says something to you in a situation like that, you have to assume at least 10 people or 100 people. I don't know how the formula goes. You assume more people than that are interested. So people are interested, in my opinion, about David Lynch and transcendental meditation. Now, since I am going to say some things which might not be entirely positive about transcendental meditation, I am going to get a bunch of comments from people who are involved in TM, and you can go look below, and they're probably there right now, who are going to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, and I shouldn't say anything, and etc., etc., and etc. So go ahead. Leave those comments, enjoy yourself, have fun. Maybe you can word them in a really nice way or a really, scathing way and really take me down. See if you can do that. That'll be fun for you. But the fact is, and this is what they're going to point out in the comments, is I don't know much about transcendental meditation. I've never really been involved with it except kind of on the periphery. So let me tell you the little tiny involvement I've had in transcendental meditation, which is that when I first came to Buddhism, when I first encountered Buddhism, as many of you who've watched these videos previously will already know, I wasn't looking for Buddhism. I was looking for Hinduism. I was looking for something more like transcendental meditation. And there wasn't any transcendental meditation teacher or anything that I knew about in the Akron, Kent area when I was first getting interested in this as a student at Kent State University. But there was a teacher who taught Zen meditation, and that's what I went for. But at the same time, I didn't jump into Zen head first and be like, oh yeah, I'm great, Zen is great. I was still kind of looking around, and I remember going to a Shelley's Book Bar, which I've mentioned before, which is no longer there, but it was a little used bookstore in Kent, which was about a 5-minute walk from where I lived. And I got a copy of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's his translation and commentary of the Bhagavad Gita. So, TM, let's talk about TM. And most of what I know about TM, Transcendental Meditation, comes from this book, Gurus in America, whose chapter on Transcendental Meditation I just reread a minute before doing this video. And the basic history of the thing is that there was this guy, and his name was, let me get this name right, Mahesh Prasad Varna. So he's more popularly known these days as Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And he was a student, he got his bachelor's degree in physics, and he was a student of a teacher in the Advaita Vedanta tradition of Shankaracharya, who's a famous, I didn't realize this, according to this, Shankaracharya is kind of a generic name for a bunch of people, but the original Shankaracharya was, I can't remember, a few centuries ago, Indian guru and teacher. And Mahesh Prasad Varna was interested in his teachings and eventually became a teacher in his lineage, but not a guru. This book goes to great pains to point out that the word guru refers to somebody who is a Brahmin and has done this and that, and I've forgotten all the other things that you have to do to be a guru. But so Maharishi Mahesh Yogi called himself a yogi and not a guru. And he taught this system of meditation, and most famously, the Beatles got into it in the 60s. But actually, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was fairly famous before the Beatles got into him. His whole thing was trying to bring this meditation system to people of the West, and he wanted to kind of do the same thing that a lot of the people in the mindfulness movement are doing with Buddhism. He was doing it before they were doing it, as far as I know, to Hinduism, which is to try to strip away all the religious elements of it and present it as kind of a secular thing and a scientific thing. And he was very into that, and people were very receptive to this idea. And of course, you probably know that the Beatles ended up rejecting it, but a lot of other celebrities ended up embracing it. And that's one of my kind of problems with the whole TM thing. So let's talk a little bit about David Lynch, because I don't know much about David Lynch. All I know really about David Lynch is that when I was at Kent State University, probably my first or second year there, I went and saw a screening of Eraserhead, which was his, I don't know if that was his first ever movie, but that's the first movie of his that I think most people are aware of. And maybe he made a student film or something before that, I don't really know. And I never want to see Eraserhead again. That doesn't mean I think Eraserhead was a bad movie, but Eraserhead was like a trip into somebody's nightmare, somebody else's nightmare. And like, I got enough nightmares of my own. I don't want to see somebody else's nightmare. I didn't enjoy seeing that movie. Although I have to say, in some sense, I guess it's a good movie. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy it because it was bad. I guess maybe I didn't enjoy it because it was too good. I mean, it was a really, really powerful visual and audio simulation of a nightmare, and I hated it. So a few years later, I saw, Blue Velvet, which was a lot easier to take. I saw his version of Dune, which I'm one of the few people who kind of liked it. You know, I didn't love it, but a lot of people really, really hated that movie, and I didn't hate it. I thought, it was all right. It was sort of packed with too much information, so it was very hard to follow. That was my impression of it. But, all right. And then after that, I kind of fell off. I never watched Twin Peaks. I never really paid much attention to any of the other stuff that he did. I might have seen Mulholland Drive. Was that one of his movies? I don't even know if that was one of his movies. But anyway, so there's the full extent of my David Lynch. Is like, I can't say I'm like a real David Lynch enthusiast. But, over the years, I've been aware that he was into TM, and a friend of mine shared with me this video, which I'm going to show you a little bit of, because it kind of gives a little bit of his philosophical outlook. So let's look at David Lynch talking about his philosophy that he gleaned from his involvement with Transcendental meditation.
I'd like to talk a little bit about nothing. And this nothing is the transcendent. It's the unified field. It's no hyphen thing. It's pure consciousness. Tonight you've probably heard a lot about consciousness is all there is. And I've heard many talks Maharishi would sometimes refer to this transcendent as nothing, but it has the potential for everything. Now picture the year 1968, and the Beatles have gone to Rishikesh, India, to study with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in his ashram there. And during the day, they're either meditating or listening to talks by Maharishi. And Maharishi starts talking about this field within as nothing, unmanifest, no hyphen thing. And you can see John Lennon picking up on this and saying to Maharishi, are you trying to tell me that nothing is going to change my world? And they would laugh. During that time in Maharishi's ashram, John Lennon wrote a great song. It's called Across the Universe. And in that song, that line, nothing's going to change my world, is repeated many times.
Okay, so there you go. It's hard. I can't really argue with most of what he's saying there. It's a kind of standard Advaita Vedanta philosophical outlook, and it also shares some connection with Zen, and especially this idea of nothing being the foundation of everything. And we get into that in Zen as well. So philosophically speaking, it's kind of a similar thing. And as far as the practice goes, what they teach is basic standard Hindu mantra meditation, which has been around for thousands of years. It probably predates Buddhism. It's where you close your eyes and you silently repeat a mantra to yourself, and then this mantra is supposed to calm down your thoughts and open your mind to the great nothing, and so forth and so on. And to me, I don't think there's anything wrong with that kind of meditation. Jerry Seinfeld's into it, so not that there's anything wrong with it. So I don't think it's a bad thing to do or a negative thing. I just feel like Zazen is better. And you can see my millions of videos about Zazen if you want to see my take on Zazen, but I feel like it's better because it doesn't focus on anything in particular, and it's not intended to do anything in particular for you. And that allows you to kind of open up to reality as it is without forming it in any way. That's philosophically how it goes. And, that's all I want to say about that in this video. Maybe we can talk about that later in some other video. My main problem with transcendental meditation is twofold. One is that they're celebrity chasers. They really go after the celebrities. And I always find that a bit suspicious because, okay, yes, celebrities, a lot of people get into it because they see a celebrity talking about it. In fact, when I was doing a little bit of research on this video, I immediately came across, like the first thing I came across when I looked up TM was somebody talking about how they got into TM because David Lynch was into it. So that's how they get their audience. That's how they get their more people into it. I guess maybe there's three things I have against it. The second thing is it costs a lot of money. So they don't give their mantras out for free. And I remember when I first encountered it as a college student, when I was first kind of starting to get interested in it, I didn't encounter anybody who was a representative of TM or anything at the time, but Tim, my first Zen teacher, had tried it when he was younger, and he told me about, the amount of money that they charge for their mantras, and I'm like, well, I don't have that much money, and he was talking about what they charged 10 years before, so there was no way I could afford that. But I do understand the sort of rationale behind that, because there's this kind of phenomena in humanity wherein if you make a sacrifice for something, if you pay money, for example, for something, you're more likely to take it seriously and more likely to make an effort in it. And let's be charitable and say that that's the reason that they charge so much money for their mantras, and not because they want to make a lot of money, which they do. So, and the other thing was perfectly stated in this book, Gurus in America. Did I hold this up before? I've made 2 takes of this video, and I can't remember if I held it up in the first one, but this is where I'm getting my information from about TM. But here's what they say, or here's what this is edited, so I'm not even sure who says this. Let's tell you who says this. It is Cynthia Ann Humes, and the essay is called Maharishi Mahesh Yogi Beyond the TM Technique. And here's what she says. This issue over Maharishi's monopoly of spiritual services mirrors a commercial tradition most Americans would recognize: supposed quality control issues in a franchisor-franchisee relationship. McDonald's, for example, requires its franchises to order food products and paper products solely through their parent company. Maharishi also requires his franchisees, teachers, meditators, governors, and so on, to use his products and his alone. Indeed, he even requires his teachers to sign statements of loyalty, a contract, to him, he has gone to court to protect his trademark wares and monopoly rights, which extend to the mantras used in TM, all of which can be found in the Standard Mantra Kosha or Treasury of Mantras. So he's trademarked a bunch of mantras that have been around for thousands of years, and now they belong to him. Well, I don't know. He's dead now. He died in 2008, so they don't belong to him, but they belong to the corporation. And yeah, that's just cheesy. Another thing is the whole yogic flying deal. Okay, here's the history of the Maharishi and his movement in a nutshell, is that they first tried to present themselves as a very Western, secularized, scientific thing, the way the mindfulness movement tries to present Buddhism. They tried to present Hinduism that way. And then at some point, I guess around the early 80s, the Maharishi himself got more into a kind of devotional thing and wanted to bring back all the Hindu things. And one of the things he brought back was siddhis, which was the idea of developing spiritual powers. And one of the spiritual powers that he advocated was yogic flying. So let me show you this video I found on the internet. This is Doug Henning, the famous magician, if anybody remembers Doug Henning, talking about yogic flying and about the Maharishi's political party, which they were trying to put in action and get seats in, I don't know, the American Senate, or I don't know what they were trying to do. Anyway, specifically, I don't think they were trying to get the presidency. But here's Doug Henning saying stuff about yogic flying.
During this election, you've heard a lot about yogic flying and the experience of bubbling bliss. That's because 7,000 yogic flyers can create a perfect government with the ability to satisfy everyone. All of our national problems are basically caused by stress. And the best antidote is Transcendental meditation and 7,000 yogic flyers, which can eliminate stress in the whole country, create an integrated national consciousness, and prevent problems. For a perfect government, vote the Natural Law Party.
Okay, so there you have it. The idea was that you would do this meditation practice and it would enable you to fly under your own power. But as you saw in the video, and I wonder if this video was cut together between two videos, because they're showing you what yogic flying is, which, as you can see, is basically guys in the lotus position bouncing on mattresses. So, okay, that's yogic flying. At the time I first heard about yogic flying was in that time when I was kind of interested in Zen and TM at the same time. And there weren't videos like this, and I never saw the Doug Henning commercial, but I did see photos of yogic flying, and it was pretty obvious even from a still photo that it was a guy bouncing on a mattress. And I'm like, oh, come on, guys bouncing on mattresses. Give me a break. So that kind of turned me off from it. There's this kind of tendency to promote ridiculous things like yogic flying and supernatural powers and stuff. Also, the other thing that TM does that I find is problematic is downplaying the negative aspects of meditation to the point of trying to bury them. And I've talked about this in multiple videos before, that anybody who gets seriously, deeply into a meditation practice is going to encounter some dark sides. The mind, when quieted through any kind of meditation technique, mantra meditation or shikantaza in the case of Zen will start to, the mind kind of opens up. It's like Nishijima Roshi, my teacher, used to call it, it's like taking off the lid off a boiling pot and everything starts bubbling over. So that the sort of dark stuff that's in your mind will start to flow out. And this can cause people a lot of problems. My friend Shozan Jack Haubner, who runs the YouTube site, what's it called? Zen Confidential. He just did a video on this. Makyo is the name. Makyo means world of demons. That's what we call it in Zen. I wrote a chapter about it in Hardcore Zen, if you want to go look at that. But it's just this kind of dark side stuff that comes up. And sometimes it presents itself in not the sort of dark side way, but as like wonderful revelations, or Shozan talks about his awakening his third eye he felt like he was doing when he was doing Zazen, that kind of thing. So in Zen practice, we look upon those things as things to be avoided. that they're just kind of a dark side, that they're gonna, lead you nowhere good. So all that branding and stuff and all the, special powers and the bouncing on mattresses and everything, when I was young, 19 or 20, 18, whatever I was, seeing that stuff, I was like, yeah, that's not what I'm into, and I kind of just stepped away from it. I don't think TM is necessarily a bad thing. All things considered, there's a lot worse spiritual stuff you could get into. I couldn't find any horrible controversies associated with the group. When I looked up, they had a tax evasion problem and some other kind of minor issues. There may be some scandals I didn't find out during my not very extensive research, but there's no big scandals. Nothing that's really big and awful that you hear about a lot. So they're probably okay. And I suppose they kind of promote it as a stress relief thing and something to open up your creativity, which I guess people like Seinfeld and David Lynch were really into it for. So yeah, maybe it does that. I'm not trying to say it's awful or anything, but I can just say that the reason I didn't get into it were those, all that branding stuff, all the expensive meditation, the celebrity chasing, that kind of thing just turned me off from the whole deal, and I never got into it. I never really tried it or anything like that. So, that's really all I have to say. And yeah, commenters, go ahead and say you don't know anything about Maharishi or TM, and why are you talking about it, and you shouldn't say anything, and etc., etc. So you can go and leave those comments, and the rest of you can kind of enjoy reading those comments from those people. But this is just my personal opinion, and it doesn't really, it doesn't make much difference at all, I don't think, what my personal opinion is on TM and David Lynch, but people wanted to hear it, so there you go. As for Lynch himself, I never knew him or anything about him, so no real opinion. It's always kind of sad when a great artist dies. Because I wasn't that into his work, I didn't make much of a big deal out of it, as much as I did out of Big Chuck Shadowski, who died, I don't know if it was the same day, but very close to the same day as David Lynch. That meant a lot more to me, and I made a video about Big Chuck Shadowski a couple of videos ago, so you can go watch that. All right, that's all I got to say about TM and David Lynch, and I hope it didn't offend too many of you, and I hope the rest of you kind of enjoyed it. All right, if you want to send money to me via donation, if you want to send a donation to me, what am I saying? You can go to the URL that those of you who are watching this visually will see on the screen below, and those of you listening audio will now hear me say. It is hardcorezen.info/donate. That is hardcorezen.info/donate. There you will find links that will take you to my Patreon and PayPal accounts, and those are my main ways of making a living, and I appreciate your support. But as always, you don't got to support me if you don't want to support me. These are offered for free. All right, we will see you next time. Have a good time all the time. Bye.
Hey Ziggy, how you doing? Do you want to learn doggy yogic flying? We'll have you bounce up and down on your little bed there and maybe do doggy yogic flying. You interested? All right, we'll teach you after I edit the video. Okay, bye Ziggy.
Hey there, if you're still watching after Ziggy's cameo, I said on my video about Big Chuck Shadowski, I showed a clip of what I thought was the first skit I ever saw by him, but actually I just found what was actually the first skit I ever saw in the Big Chuck and Houlihan show, and I'm going to put it at the end of this video. This also shows you the sort of special effects that we were going for when we made those zero defects videos. So here it is, and I hope Big Chuck will forgive me for using his video at the end of mine.
Hi, Bob Wells here for Mighty Bowl, the toilet bowl cleaner to end all toilet bowl cleaners. Just one flick of the handle, and it leaves your water a clean, fresh blue. Tidy Bowl in your tank gets rid of odor, gets rid of germs, gets rid of rust and corrosion. In fact, nothing can live in your tank when you use Mighty Bowl. Oh.